Hello everyone, I'm Professor Liu from Taiwan Tech BA Department. Today we are going to learn the topic's function. So we all know never reinvent the wheel. That means if there already some program well developed, so then we can use it instead of we rewrite it by ourselves. Okay, there are few built-in functions already in Python. For example, we already learned it, like if we want to transfer a number, maybe a float number, become an integer, we can call the function int. For example, this one, we have a value 3.7. After we use the integer function, it's become only number 3, right? So you can consider the int is actually a built-in function, and with one input and have a return value. The return value is 3, is the integer value. Okay. Similarly, we have another example, the function called round. For example, in round, we have two input value. The first one is a number we want to be rounded. The second one is to tell the program we want to round to which decimal places. So we only want to keep 2 decimal places. So we say the second input value is 2. So after we run this program, we run this function, you can see A become 2.34. So again, if you consider round as a function, you can see we always put the input value in a bracket, no matter one input value or multiple input value. And if we have return value, usually we use equal and use another variable to receive the return value, and maybe use the variable to do other things. Okay, so that's the basic idea of function. And Python already have some built-in function. We already use them very often. However, sometimes we want import some module, and the module maybe not exist in a standard Jupyter Notebook or not in the standard Python language function. So we need to import it. So what means modules? You can consider module means a group of functions. So for example, there's one module called math. To use it, we need to import math. So math kind of like it's a group of math-related developed functions, maybe developed by other programmer, and they share with all programmers. So we know there's some terms, some numbers, some concept well used in math. So we can import math, and then we have those concepts in our program. For example, after I import math, I can use the math.py, then we get a value. It's a 3.14 and with a lot of numbers. Without import math, if I type pi, it just means pi, no value inside it, right? And similarly, if you want to do power, the 5 power of 4, I'll say that 5 times 5, 4 times, okay? So 5 power of 4. Usually I will do this way, but after I import math, I can use the power function. So I can print the math.power 5 and 4 means 5 power of 4. Also, basically, I will get the same result. So similarly, before I import math, if I want to do square root, maybe I use this symbol and 0.5. That means square root. The square root of 9 is 3. But after I import math, I can use the function square root, sqrt. It can get the same result. So remember, why I have those functions? Because I already import math, so I can use the function inside the math module. Okay, let me share with you a tips. After I import mass, I don't know how many functions inside mass. So first I type mass and the dot, then I tap T-A-B, the key T-A-B. After you click it, you can see there are all the functions inside mass. I can use them. For example, you can see sine, cosine, something like that are well used in mass area. I have floor, I remember also have log 10, something like that. So if you want to use those mass function, but you don't know what inside mass module, you can use this one, mass dot, and use the tab key to help you find the function you want. Okay, let's move on. Okay, another example is just recently we have a practice about factorial function, right? So before I import math, if I want to calculate the factorial function, factorial numbers, maybe I can do this way. I want to calculate the factorial of 10. I need first understand n equal to 10, and I use another variable, maybe total. And I create a for loop from 1 to 11. The reason from 1 to 11 because I want to find factorial of 10, so I want 10 be included in the calculation. So remember, the n position will not included in the I value, so I need add one, right? So if for example, if I want to include 10, I need to be end in 11. Otherwise, 10, if I put 10 will not be included. Okay, so that's why I need n plus 1. Okay, so and in the for loop, every time I use the current total times the I. So if 1 factorial, it will become total current total is 1 times 1. So factorial 1 is 1. But when I is 2, I use the factorial of 1 times, now I become 2. So become 1 times 2, become factorial of 2. In 3, it become factorial, the result of factorial of 2 times 3, right? Because I is 3, and so on until I have 10, factorial of 10. But after I import math, I can easily to calculate this one. So that's why if we already have the wheel, we don't need to recreate the wheel by ourselves. Although it's actually not that difficult, but sometimes you just don't want to do it rewrite the program by yourself. So you import it and then use the function already be developed. Okay, let's move on. Sometimes we still need to create the program by ourselves. Then you need to use the define function. So you need to def means define. You define a function name, and if you need some input, you need to put in the bracket. The input values, sometimes we call it parameters, maybe just one, maybe multiple, or even you don't need to put any input value. It depends on what type of program you want to create. And then you need this symbol, and also you need one indent, and then start to write the program. If you need some return value, you use return, then put the return variable or return value you want to move outside the function or return to be received as another variable. Okay, so for example, previously we have one practice is about to convert the Fahrenheit temperature to Celsius temperature, right? So maybe I define a function called Fahrenheit to Celsius, so F2C, and we want the input value is a Fahrenheit temperature. And then we know with the temperature minus 32, then times this proportion, then it will convert to Celsius temperature, right? So I use a variable called converted temperature, and I return the variable after run the program. So after I have this function, I run this function, then I can call this function to use this function. So first of all, I interact with the user to ask the user to enter a temperature in degrees of Fahrenheit, and I set the value as F and run the program. So I transfer the value in F as a Fahrenheit temperature, then convert to Celsius degree and return the Celsius degree as the variable C, then I can print out, right? So for example, after I do it, okay, first of all, the previous version is like that. After I have C, I print out, right? For example, I want to test 100 degree of Fahrenheit, it will become 37.777 Celsius degree. So I want to ask you how to round to 2 decimal places. We just talked about it. There's one built-in function called round, right? So round need 2 input value. Okay, so after I do it, it will round to only 2 decimal number and print out as a Celsius degree. Okay. Another example. Remember we have one exercise about the prime number to test if the number is a prime number, right? It's a prime number. So to do prime number, the most easy way is to use a flag. If flag equal to 1 means the number is a prime number. And first of all, we set up a flag equal to 1, and we use a for loop from number 2 to the number, from 2 to the number. So that means if the input number can be fully divided by any smaller numbers, then it's not a prime number. The number is not a prime number. If it can be divided by any smaller number, then it's not a prime number, right? So the rule is very straightforward. So I create a for loop to test if the number can be fully divided by any of the smaller number. And do you remember this operator? That means to find the residual. So if number divided by I with the residual equal to 0, then that means the number is not a prime number, right? So in that situation, I update the flag equal to 0. Then I break the for loop. Because once a number can be divided by any smaller number, it's not a prime number. I get a result, I don't need to keep the loop. So I can use break. However, if a number goes through the whole loop and cannot be divided by any smaller number, then the if will never be true, right? So the flag will still be 1. In that situation, I know the number is a prime number. Okay, so that's actually very short program. I write it as a function called prime. So after I have this function, next time if I want to do it, okay, if I want to do it, for example, I want to test from number 2 to 100, how many prime numbers. I can call the prime function to test it. It's become very convenient, right? And also, last time we want to interact with the user. So user need to input 2 values. One is N, another is M. But I know some students get confused. If I okay, let me do it. Without this line, you may get some trouble because n is larger and is smaller. So they need this one. They use the mini function to find whether n or m which is smaller, and also max function to find whether n or m is a larger number, and then to be received as these two variables, or you may consider it's an update value. No matter which one is larger, after you do this one, n take the smaller value, m is the larger value. Then I can use it in our program without getting any trouble, right? Okay, just to share with you. Okay, let's move on. A function maybe can have several input values. The previous one, no matter the prime function or the Fahrenheit to Celsius function, we only handle one input value. But actually, you can use the function with unlimited input value. For example, in previous class, we have one exercise is about to calculate the overtime payment, right? So in the overtime payment calculation, we need to know the hourly wage and also how much time the worker works. Okay, so consider in Taiwan, if any workers work more than 40 hours, the employers need to pay extra money. So the function may look like that. If the hours lower than 40, we just pay the regular wage times the total hours. However, if the worker work overtime, means larger than 40, the first 40 hours we use the standard wage. However, over the 40 hours, every one more hours we need to pay extra 50% of the regular wage. So that's become the overtime payment. And anyway, after we build up this function, we run it. So next time, if we want to use the function, we just call it. So since the function name is pay, so next time if we want to use it, we just type pay, and we have a bracket. And you may see when we define a function, we call the first input value as wage, second as hours. But when we run this program, we maybe can input another variable. It's not necessary to be the same, even just a number, that's okay. So after we run this one, we enter the hourly wage, I don't know, maybe 200, and work like 60 hours this week. So that's my payment if I work that long with the hourly wage level. That will become my salary. Okay, something like that. Okay, let's move on. In previous exercise, we have the chicken and the rabbit problem. Although it's an advanced problem, but actually it's quite simple. It's quite simple. If you understand the logic, it's actually quite easy to write it. Okay, now I use the function to help you understand it. We say we define a program called chicken rabbit problem. In this problem, we have two input values. The first one is the number of heads. The second one is the number of legs. So for C in range, heads plus 1. That means C means chicken, right? So in this problem, the chicken can be 0, can be as small as 0, but also can be as large as the number of heads. For example, if the total heads is 10, that means these 10 heads maybe can all from chicken, right? On the other hand, if I have 1 chicken. That means maybe the number of rabbits can be 9, right? Because I have total 10 heads. So maybe 0 chicken, 10 rabbit, or 1 chicken, 9 rabbit, until 0 chicken and 10 rabbit, right? So I have so many different combinations, but I want to test if any of the combination can fulfill the total number of legs. So we can see in this loop, I want to check if each chicken have 2 legs, and the head minus C means the number of rabbits in this combination. So each rabbit have 4 legs. So let's become the total legs. This part is the total legs in this combination. If this total legs equal to the input value of legs, that means I found the combination can satisfy the total number of heads and satisfy the total number of legs. Then that means the combination is the answer I want to find, right? So after I found it, I can output the number of chickens and the number of rabbits. So we can test this one. If I have 10 heads, 30 legs, then that means I have 5 chicken and 5 rabbit. You can also try other combinations. For example, maybe try a large number. Maybe 122. Okay, let's go. So that means I have this number of chicken and this number of rabbit. It will satisfy the requirement 40 heads and 122 legs. You can try it. Okay, let's move on. The next topic is function with return values or multiple values. So, for example, in the previous one, let me see. For example, this one, the overtime payment, we have only one return value. But very similar to the input value, we can have multiple input value. That also means actually we can also have multiple return values. Okay, there's one module called Taiwan dollars. It means if you import this module, it can help you to check the foreign exchange rate in the current time. But to use this one, because it's not a standard module in Jupyter Notebook, or I should say in Anaconda, so you need to install this first. So maybe you can do it. Remember, to install any new module, you need to first go to Anaconda prompt. To use Anaconda prompt, you need to go to this place, Anaconda 3. You can find this one, Anaconda prompt. So you go to this interface and you type this one, pipe 3 install TWDER. After you do it, it will install this module in your computer. Okay, because I already have this one. So if it's your first time to install the $20 module, it will show you install successfully, something like that, to let you know you successfully install this module. A good way to test it, if you install correctly, you can do import TYDER to see if it can run without any problem. That means, okay, I successfully install this module. So after import the TWDER, it's actually a function can help you to check the current money exchange rate related to Taiwan dollar. So I use this module to do the purpose I want to do. In this program, I want to do foreign currency exchange. So first of all, I need to write this one. In this function, I call money exchange. So the input have 2 values. One is which currency I want to change, which foreign money I want to change. And second is how much money I want to change. So first I need these two input. And in the function I want to know, first of all, I need to know the rate, the current exchange rate. And I also want to know, because the exchange rate change over time, so I want to know what is the current date, what is the current time. And in this current time, what is the exchange rate? That's a very important information, right? I need to know. Then, because I know how the amount of money changed to which currency, so I have the rate. I know the NTT dollar. NTT dollar after divided by rate, that's become the amount I can get if I change to the foreign money, right? And I want to return. That's the key point I want to let you know. You can see I have three values I want to return, include the date, the rate, the amount. So that's the function I built. Then outside the function, I want to do some interact with the user to let the user know what foreign currency they can consider to change. Maybe include US dollar, Euro dollar, and other money from different country. Okay, that's fine. And to ask the user what foreign currency you want to exchange to. Okay, and how much money in NTT dollar you want to change to the foreign currency. Then I call the function, and based on the currency the user choose, the amount of money the user input, and go through the function, then return the date, the rate, the amount, and also include these two input. Then let's combine my final printout sentence. So based on the, sorry, maybe I can run it, it will be more clear. What foreign currency want to exchange? For example, maybe I want to change to USD with 10,000 Taiwan dollar. So I will know based on the current time, the exchange rate is 29.34, and based on the rate, the 10,000 NT dollar will be exchanged to this amount of US dollar. Okay, so that's a very good example to tell you you can return multiple values. Okay. Also, your return value can be a Boolean value. Boolean means zero, either 0 or 1, either true or false, right? True or false. True is 1, false is 0. Okay. So, for example, in previous practice, we have an exercise called palindrome. Palindrome means maybe you have a string. No matter you read it like 131 or reversely, it's still 131. This type of string we call palindrome. It's a palindrome. Okay. So to do that, in my logic, I like to first create the input, maybe already a string, so like a list called A, the value is 131. I want to create another list, and the list, either you can copy from, for example, I previously write B equal to A, and then I want to reverse the B list. But I found a problem. Let me show you. If I do this way, first I have A equal to 1, 2, 3, and I create another list equal to A. So it's supposed to be the same, but let me show you. After I do this, what will be the list in B? It's 3 to 1, right? That's no problem. But what in A? What do you think? 1, 2, 3 or 3 to 1? It's also 3 to 1, right? That's become a problem. So you can see if you create a list and you assign another list equal to A, when you change B, you reverse B, A will also be affected. So that's a problem. So if you want to do palindrome, this program, one good way, one simple way to do is first you create an empty list and you use for loop. Sequentially put every element in A and append in B. So after I run this for loop, basically A and B will have the same content, but they won't be affect each other, right? Then after I reverse B, and I can check if A equal to B. If they are the same, I return true. If not, they return false. Okay, so after we write this function, so next time we can call a function. For example, I have maybe this one. It's a palindrome, right? It's a palindrome string. So, and I call the palindrome function. So I just use the function name with the input, which is the list we already have, to test. If it's true, it will print this is a palindrome. However, if false, it will go to else, right? So it's print this is not a palindrome. So let's try it. Oh, something wrong. I need to run the function first. Okay, then I can call the function. So this is a palindrome. That's correct. How about that? We change the value to 6. So now it's not a palindrome. So after I call the function, it's become a false. So since it's not, this if function is not true, so we will go to else. Then it's print this is not a palindrome. Okay, so just let you know the return value can be a Boolean value, maybe 0, 1, true or false, something like that. Okay, let's move on. The last topics I want to explain to you. This one need to go first. Okay, it's very simple. Although in the previous function we always have input value, we have return value, but what if we don't have input value, we don't have return value? It still work. In that situation, if I write a function called main and actually no input and no return value, so it just goes through all the content you write, goes through the command you write in the function. For example, this one, to ask the user to enter your name, for example, my family name is Lu. So just hi Lu. It still goes through the function. Even if it have no input value, no return value, it's still fine. It won't affect anything. You still can call the function and run the function. Okay? Okay, last topic. Scope of variables. It's actually I want to explain. When you use function, you need to keep in mind all the variables can separate to local variable and a global variable. What is local variable? It means you create a variable inside a function. That is called local variable. What is local variable? It means the local variable can only be used in function 1 if I create it in function 1. So let's check it. I define a function called function 1. In this one, I define a variable called y and give value. The value is 5. Then I call the function 2. So function 2 only have one line. I want to print y. So I know y is 5. But if I do this way and I call function 1, let's try it. Oh, sorry, I need to first clean out everything because maybe previously I already have the value for y. Okay, let's see it. After I call function 1, it will run this content. So give value to y and call function 2. And function 2, I want to print y. But you can see there's an error. Name y is not defined. Name y is not defined. So that means when I print y, I found in function 2 there's no value of y. Y is not be defined. Why? Because in function 2 there's no variable called y. Okay? You may wonder, we already defined the variable in function 1. but because it's a local variable, after you go outside function 1, there's no variable called y. So what we can do? The first way, we let y become an input value in function 2. That will be work. That's the first way. And second way is, if I don't do that, if I don't want to do that, another way is I set up y outside the function. So if I do this way, y become a global variable because it's created outside any function, so it's become a global variable. This way also work. Now I have the value of y. When I run function 2, the function 2 can refer to the global variable. There's one global variable called y, so when I print y, I know this is a global variable and the value is 5, so that's no problem. And another way, if you have to, for some reason, you need to run function 1, then you know the value of a variable. Now we change to x. What we can do? Exactly the same thing, but now we change y to x. And remember that if we do this way, it will become an error, right? Because we don't have the value. In function 2, we don't have the value of variable x. Variable x is not defined yet, so it's become a problem. However, in function 1, we can define a variable x, and then we say it's a global variable. To do that, you need to write this way: global x. That means x variable is a global variable. After I define this one, I can give value to the variable, and the next time, even in other function, when I use it, for example, I print x, they know there is a variable called x. It's a global variable, so even in function 2, the function 2 know the value, so it won't get any problem. Okay? So that's all the knowledge I want to share with you about the function. So for more information, more content, I will teach you in our physical class. Thanks for your time. See you in our physical class. Bye bye.